This is an open letter to Mr. Tucker Carlson and Mr. Elon Musk. Uh, with regards to your opposition or your disgust, I can say, of the woke movement, and the woke is bad and this is bad and the other is bad and liberalism is bad. Okay, somewhat we agree with you. It's gone overboard with regards to singular identity and who identifies as what. To some extent we agree with you, but with regards to socialism and how bad it is, and apparently the woke movement is somehow connected to socialism and this and that and the other. Here's the thing, folks. Two things happened recently that it's just I give you these two examples that I was disgusted, and I tell you what we think with regards to what's the cause of these things. One was a short video of a joyride by some people who nicked a car, stole a car. There were black skins who stole a car, and during their getaway, during their joyride, they actually, ran over, or you can say ran under, a poor bastard on a bike, which turned out to be on a bicycle, which turned out to be a retired police chief. Then this was disgusting. And then recently I was having a conversation with some fellow on Twitter. I was watching the conversation between two people on Twitter, and I saw that the guy who identified, again, who knows where is the guy from. He identified as a white guy from Sweden, and he was basically of the idea that yeah, if we can go exterminate them, we have the right to go exterminate them. He was of that mindset. So basically it's the might is right, and we should go and exterminate. And this was a good thing that the European exterminated the Redskins in the Americas, specifically in North America. That was a good thing. And the might is right, and we had the power, the knowledge to build bigger weapons, and we went and got them and committed genocide, and we wiped them out. So what's wrong with that? That was his idea. Well, you have the two sides of the matter, folks. You have this side. So when this white guy from Sweden, when he says might is right and we had the right to go because we had to go and wipe them out because we could. Well, you have a black guy here in Las Vegas who stole a car and ran over a police officer, retired police officer, who's going on bicycle rides. That shows how much the guy was wiser than average. He wasn't just some jackass. He was wiser than average. At his age, he's trying to exercise so here's one fool on this side of the pink skin side who says, yes, we were right to wipe them out, and we will wipe them out again today. And here is the guy on the black skin here actually does that. Might is right. I got a bigger car, I run you down and flip your bicycle and you die because I can. That's the same perspective that as the pink skin. The black skin, pink skin, they both have reached the same perspective. I'm sorry, but here's the funny part. And that is you're telling me that socialism is responsible for this, or socialist thoughts or socialist ideals are responsible for this? You're somehow trying to connect socialism with this ignorance. Forgive me, Mr. Tucker Carlson, Mr. Elon Musk. For the past 100 years, capitalism ruled half the world, and for the past 50 years, total capitalism has been ruling all of the world, right? It was 1990 that 89, 90, the Soviet Union calls it quits, and therefore fell all the socialist-minded bloc on the east, and the Chinese, went about it a different way. They just started practicing capitalism more and more every day. And what you know, they succeeded. But the point is this, that for the past 100 years, capitalism has been educating these people. A capitalist system. Let me correct that. A capitalist system. You can't tell me that, people in Uncle Sam's land were educated by socialists. Fuck you. Yes, maybe there are some socialist professors in some universities, but these personalities have shaped way before university. Hollywood has shaped these personalities. Capitalism has shaped these personalities, these ideals, these ideas, these perspectives, these ignorant perspectives was taught under a capitalist system. And these personalities are formed way before universities. The guy who ran over, the retired chief of police, he was under 18. This is his perspective. The person, and believe me, in his, first grade, second grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, whatever grade he just finished, none of these people have any socialist bone in their body. So economic socialist. So don't tell me that this is the result of the woke mob and these chaotic behavior by our citizens in the streets, and their lack of, perspective with regards to drug use, and the lack of value with regards to human life is the result of some 7th grader who taught them socialism? No, it's not. What the fuck are you people talking about? There may be a few socialist-minded professors way in some unknown university somewhere. But these people haven't even reached the university, and they're behaving like this. They're talking like this online. That yes, if you have the power, you can go exterminate them. Go ahead, good for you. That's the white guy talking about other races from Sweden, and this is, black guy in Vegas actually, having the might on his side because his vehicle was bigger, and ran the motherfucker over. What are you people talking about? These people have been raised under capitalist system. These people have been raised in a capitalist system, not a socialist system. Why are you trying to attach this to socialist ideals? The ignorance of these children, I can say, is the result of your educational system, which was built under a capitalist ideals. Period. The capitalist ideal says if you have money, you get educated. Your children get educated. If you don't have money, fuck you. You can fuck the teacher because he or she is of that variety. End of story. It's fuckable. Just like you, because a 40, 50-year-old woman has to, find a better paying job. So only a 19-year-old, 21-year-old, 23-year-old teachers are available in primary schools and middle schools. 22, 24, 26-year-old, very young, immature teachers are also available because they can do with lower pay. Therefore, it's like a blind leading the blind. Your Capitalist system says if you have money, we educate you with some values, social values, economic values, civil values, scientific values. If you pay us money, we will educate you. If you don't pay us the kind of money that we won't educate you. This is not a socialist educational system. This is a capitalist educational system. So because 90% of people cannot pay oodles for the education of their children, so the children go to whatever free education that is available. And that's not good. Because you're spending, the capitalist system has decided to expenditures at the periphery of an empire is more profitable than trying to teach the youngsters of our own society. That is more profitable, so we go after that. This is capitalist system thinking that war is more profitable, so we do more war and education, because in the short term its profits are not palpable, are not tangible, because the profits of education, of educating your society in the short term is not tangible in the short term. Therefore we don't value it, therefore we don't invest money in it. But capitalism has decided not to invest money in education because it doesn't have short-term profits. But then the result of this educational system, when it comes out, you say, oh, they're behaving like this because they're socialist. Because educational system is teaching them socialism. What the fuck are you talking about? The educational system is teaching them exactly how much you pay them to teach, which is not much. You're spending most of your money in wars around the planet. Useless things. Creating animosity because animosity, makes Raytheon richer. Animosity between areas and countries and, creating something, forming teams. It's like fucking rugby. All this commotion and all this activity and all this energy is being used to form teams because we want to play soccer. Sorry, we want to go to war. Fuck. This is again another result of capitalism. Folks, all the wars you have, all the people you don't educate, is all the result of capitalism. Because capitalism says that we need profit. Profit is all that is important. Well, therefore, things that are not profitable, money-making, capitalism doesn't value. Therefore, educational system, therefore, health system. When people are sick, that has value because you can sell them drugs. But if you keep them healthy, that has no value because there is no profit at the bottom of a fucking thing. Housing, education, healthcare, housing. These things that are the most important things for a society are not profitable. Housing has become profitable because the labor has been relatively, slave labor from southern border, slave wages. You don't pay illegals the same as you pay the citizens. You can't. Citizens have some laws on their side. Illegals don't have any laws on their side. So you can pay them shit. Therefore, creation of wealth. Capitalism. Folks, the sins are the sins of capitalists, but then the bastard that is born, you say this bastard belonged to socialism? What the fuck are you people talking about? If you have for 100 years ignored the education, for at least you can say for 50 years for sure, you have ignored the education of your children. Ignored it. Here's what I'm saying. The conservative who I can say the whole thing, the result of lack of knowledge. And I know where it started, this push towards let's make our citizens less knowledgeable. I think the push came around 1970s, 80s. Around 1970s, 60s, 70s is when all the protests with regards to war in Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia, all those, protests started. And that was, that gave an idea to the military industrial complex, to the capitalist system, to come up with an idea. What if our people don't know what we're doing? What if we don't advertise what the fuck we're doing? And that means that what if we don't even try to teach our children the map of the globe? Why don't, if they can't tell where the fuck Ukraine is, they could care less what we are doing in Ukraine. If they can't tell where the fuck Iraq is, not even their mind, they don't even have a clue around what part of the fucking globe is Iraq is. If they don't know that, if we make it something that is not important, only the brainiacs know, and if you're cool, if you're the fawns, you don't need to know, because you're cool even though you don't know shit. If capitalism has advertised the fawns over Mr. Archer's son-in-law, was it Archie Bunker's son-in-law? You have taken Archie Bunker's son-in-law, which tries to at least have a better understanding than his father. You have turned that into the fawns. In the next decade or so, you turn that into the fawns, and then you turn fawns into the Friends. The sitcom Friends. You have decided after Vietnam, you decided basically the less our youngsters know, the easier we will have it. They won't try to, fuck up our country every time we try to fuck up somebody else's country. They don't try to fuck up our country every time we try to fuck somebody else. They don't know it. They don't care when we try to fuck somebody else, like Gaddafi or Saddam. They don't care because they don't even know who these people are, or what people we're talking about, or what fucking language they speak in. So the idea is capitalism has won your educational system over and promoted not teaching shit, with the result, they got the result that they wanted, an uninvolved citizenry. Because the citizenry, when they don't know history or geography, they couldn't care less where, the Middle Kingdom is. Bomb them, bomb, Iran, bomb, Iran. Remember, Mr. McKay, this is a senator, comes on TV and doesn't want to show where the fuck Iran is, how many fucking bastards live there, and says, yeah, why don't you, let's go with the Beach Boys. Because, our people identify with Beach Boys, understand what it was, what it is, how they can dance to it, but they don't fucking know where Iran is, because we intended for them not to know the geography, the history, and not anything else. And even math and science. And you know what? We import our scientists. The scientists that we want, we import them from the rest of these shitholes around the world. We don't need to educate our citizenry. We import our educated people from abroad. We import them. Like those shitholes don't need educated people. What do they need educated people? They're living in jungles. Well, they don't like to live in jungles. If you allow them, they like to keep their educated people, so maybe they can live as well. An average life. But no, Mr. Tucker Carlson, your educational system is not producing enough scientists, doctors, engineers that it needs. You see, the richest and the wealthiest, and we are the shining city on the hill. People, these people, for past 100 years, have been handpicking the scientists that every other race has to offer. The doctors and the engineers, the best of doctors and engineers that every other race has to offer. You have handpicked them, invited them, incentivized them to come under your tent. Okay, good for you, but this is capitalism. This is the result of capitalism. You know why you're bringing them? Is because it's cheaper to bring imported scientists than to make your own scientists, because under capitalism, it's very expensive to making your own scientists. It's an expensive endeavor. Everywhere is an expensive endeavor trying to make people educated. So those poor bastards in those shed holes, they're raising a few educated people with the money they don't have. They're doing their best to educate a couple of people in their countries to the level that they need to move the society forward, and you handpick them, invite them and incentivize them to come to your shining city on the hill. Of course they will come. But that's why those places remain shithole. And then that's why the poor people from those places which has remained shithole, because you have plucked their best from those lands and brought it to your land. So but now they're poor people, their land hasn't moved forward, hasn't been stable, because you have picked all the brains out, you have pulled all the money over. So they're poor and brainless. So now they're poor and destitute, start moving to your land. And that is the result of this illegal immigration. You never, CIA, on behalf of US corporations, again, another symptom of capitalism, CIA, because of complaints from US corporations, Uncle Sam's Corporation complained to the CIA that such and such a leader in that shithole country is trying to be nationalist. They're trying to, nationalize some of their oil or some of their gold or some of their silver or some of the platinum or some of their lithium. They want to nationalize these products which we need, these resources which we need, and that fucker is trying to play nationalism, is raising the prices up, so our profit margin, our Uncle Sam's Corporation's profit margins are running thin, because they want to keep most of the profits, the people who own those resources. So CIA, please go overthrow that motherfucker, put somebody we want, we need, we like, who understands that we will pay him something on the side so he can take that money and deposit it in our own bank, but he's willing to sell the products, the resources of the land cheap to us, so we can keep more profits. End of story. Uncle Sam's Corporations encourage the CIA to get involved to overthrow some leaders that are trying to do some good for their people by tagging them as communist and socialist and dictators and this and that. Whatever tag is more popular, we can sell it to people better. You tag it with something like that and you invade the country or bomb it or orchestrate a coup and do whatever you need to do in order to bring home the bacon. So those places, you pull their brain, their doctors and scientists, you pull them, you incentivize them to come over. You overthrow any nationalist government that wants to keep a certain order, keep the shithole together. You overthrow them because their nationalism is interfering with Uncle Sam's Corporation's profit margins. So therefore, the profit margins needs to be saved. If that means we overthrow the, you know, Jacobo Arden in, I don't know, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, you have to, you know, overthrow that, and we have to, you know, embargo the Cubans for 50 years to make sure their system will not work, their nationalism will not pay, to make sure that their nationalism does not pay, to, you know, to show the other, these little shit hole islands in the Caribbean, to show them, make an example of the Cuba, make sure everybody sees that socialism doesn't pay, because we are literally embargoing them. We won't even do with anybody who does business with them. We will embargo anybody who doesn't embargo them. You're trying, capitalism is trying to destroy socialism. Here's the thing, Mr. Musk. Communism, yeah, I agree, doesn't work. But socialism, or anything close to socialism, social nationalism, which means basically the leader of that country, or leaders or group of leaders, have decided that they want to keep, you know, keep a functioning country going. Whether dictatorship or democracy, who cares? As long as it's a functioning system going, you should let it go. Functioning. It's not like Libya or Iraq, or, you know, it's functioning. When it's functioning, you let it go. You don't insist on changing the format of the governance. Anyway, I lost the track of my thought. Every time any of these countries try to get their act together, your intelligence services stick them with a sticker of some bad sticker, dictatorship, communism, this and that and the other, and embargo them. Here's the system. Here's the thing, folks, and you keep repeating that socialism doesn't work. Well, any system, if you do your best for it not to work, it's not going to work. I mean, you're telling me that if I throw this over there, I can't reach that tree. That's saying that is one thing, that you can't reach it. But then when I try to throw this, you come in the way and embargo me, blockade me, making sure that I don't reach that tree. These are two different things. The capitalist countries, specifically London, Paris, and New York, these capitalist centers have had one mission, and that is to make sure that socialists, especially socialists in the third world, the socialists in Scandinavia, that's fine because they're white and they're in Europe. Socialist nationalists in other parts of the world don't succeed. That has been one mission of London, Paris, and New York. Socialists in the rest of the world do not succeed. Period. This is like the example of you come and stand to blockade me in order for this thing that I'm throwing not to reach the tree. So by keep repeating that socialism doesn't work, socialism has never worked, socialism will never work, that is justified by you blockading and trying to make sure no socialist government works. That's the two different things. Either if a system working or not working, to prove that or disprove it, you have to leave it alone. Treat it normally as you would treat any other system. You treat the system as you would treat any other system. Then if that system fails on its own, you can say it's a failed test. It doesn't work. But if you go out of your way to make sure it doesn't work, blockade any socialist nationalist country, that small shithole, any socialist nationalist small shithole, you blockade them, you embargo them, you sanction them, well, it's not going to work. Yeah, especially because you got the big penis. You know, the reserve currency of the world, and you know, the biggest military in the world, and everybody else can go fuck themselves. With that might, if you decide that somebody's system should not work, it will not work. Because of, you know, electronic banking system and SWIFT and, you know, biggest navy fleet in the world and, you know, biggest penis. If you may want to make sure that any system that tries to call itself socialist or nationalist doesn't work, it will not work. But that doesn't mean the system is wrong and the system will never work. If you treat it normally and don't blockade it, don't try to kill it, it will not die. It will work. Probably better. Scandinavians is an example that they have socialist systems that have worked. But because they have been white, they've been able to get away with it. Especially white, and Norway being part of NATO and agreeing, you know, to sharpen Uncle Sam's swords in Europe. They have been able to get away with socialism. So here's the thing, folks. Your capitalist system is responsible for educating, not educating people. As a result, you have this chaos you have reached this chaotic point in northern hemisphere, in pink skin areas, and when you go back, you find out the reason you didn't teach your system, the deep state decided it's better not to teach the youngsters and make it very expensive, and you know, only those who can afford it can teach their children good, send them to good schools. All those who can't afford it, they don't need to teach. Their children are going to be troublemakers anyway, so let's keep them ignorant. Well, this is the chaos in the street is a result of that ignorance that has been perpetuated in the society, for the reason that an ignorant society will not be an obstacle in the way of expansion of the empire. And you know, an uneducated society that can't find Iraq on the map is not going to be an obstacle to invasion of Iraq. They will just say whatever, because the whole idea of knowing shit has been demonized. I had an encounter with the FBI, and one of my first encounters during the incarceration in immigration, one of my first encounters with the FBI was that the guy was wondering, why do I know shit? He literally asked me, how do you know this? Why do you know this? As I was talking, the guy literally told me, why do you know this? They are suspicious of you if you know shit. This is a system which is trying to perpetuate ignorance, so that because ignorance will not stand in its way of expansion of the empire. This is the system that literally the guy from the FBI was wondering, why do I know shit? I thought knowing shit should be celebrated. You are actually suspicious of people knowing shit? I'm sorry, when the system reaches that point that is suspicious of people who know shit, then I'm sorry. Then what's the difference between, you know, your system and Saudi Arabian system? The same thing. They're also very afraid of people knowing shit. Therefore, you're great friends because you're more capitalists. Capitalists like ignorant automatons. Capitalist system likes ignorant automatons. People who know just as much as you need them to know to perform a certain function. Beyond that, you need them to go home, open a beer and watch football and shut the fuck up. That's what you want, and this is what you have produced. This is the result of the capitalist system. You're cooler if you don't know shit. You're the fawns. You're cooler if you don't know shit. If you know shit, it's not cool. It's, brainiac. It's nerdy. It's, they've been trying to, put down anybody who knows shit. Both Hollywood and popular culture. They either promote Kim Kardashian, who is not a genius, or they're trying to promote, some, you know, Fox News is trying to promote some, right-wing ignorant person. There's a left-wing ignorant person and a right. The problem is capitalism, which this military-industrial media complex of that has capitalism has produced in the northern hemisphere, in the West, has created. In other words, you can say they have created these monsters. People become monsters out of ignorance. Intelligent people rarely turn into monsters. That's another thing. Hollywood, in every 90% of the scientists that Hollywood brings to the screen are evil, bad, stupid, and the hick saves the day. The most ignorant one saves the day because it's funny. It's meaningful. No, it's not. You keep demonizing the scientists and glorifying the ignorant. Forrest Gump was a thing. Just do as they tell you to do and you will win, even if you're ignorant. Forrest Gump is an ideal worker of capitalism. But his result, as we all would see in this fictitious movie, his result was always winning. Although he did exactly what he was told, he did it so good, and because he did it exactly as he was told and good, and he didn't think about it because he couldn't think about it because he didn't have half a brain, but he won. That's the ideal citizen in a capitalist country. As far as the capitalists are concerned, Forrest Gump is ideal. That's what they're promoting. That's why Forrest Gump is so beloved. I'm sorry for Tom Hanks, but he seems like an intelligent guy. But Forrest Gump was the exact thing that should not be promoted. That is to glorify. That is to glorify ignorance. Forrest Gump was biologically ignorant. It was dumb. Low IQ of 85, but it glorified it. Not that he didn't. They didn't glorify IQ of 85. They glorified the result of IQ of 85, which is don't get it. Very slow. And they glorified not getting it. Not caring to get. It's like Forrest Gump was, a lovely projection of a successful fool. And the idea was if you follow, exactly what we tell you to do, you will succeed. What we as a deep state, as the people who make decisions for you, go to Vietnam, you will succeed. You'll get a couple of medals too. Do a free enterprise and go into a business that you don't know shit about, but through hard work and luck, all other shrimp boats have to sink for Forrest Gump to become a millionaire. That means destroy all other businesses. That's how Forrest Gump won in business. He's so dumb that he can't get ahead in a normal way. So by some luck, the other boats have to be destroyed. So Forrest Gump wins. The idea is having this less than average person ignorant, less than average, which causes extreme ignorance to win, and this was glorified. This is your capitalist educational system glorifying, your capitalist media system glorifying this, and your capitalist educational system creating these people from the right and the left who their views are the result of ignorance. This one said thinks the planet Earth was invented by white people, and the other one thinks the planet Earth was invented by black people. You got flat earthers. How bad the educational system has to be to end up with a small group of folks who think the Earth might be flat. Now, fuck. And you call this, and you say this is because of socialism, the woke mob, the socialist mob. I'm not in bed with the socialist mob either, because they're also ignorant. They're also ignorant. They don't see. Here's why I say they don't. They say they're also ignorant. The socialist mob don't see the ignorant, woke mob. They don't see that you can't bring everybody from South America and Central America inside America and have those places empty. You can't do that. It will, change the ratios in a really, short time span, and both sides are going to suffer. Northern America is going to suffer, and Southern America is going to suffer. Central America is going to suffer because suddenly, the numbers change. But then, this is what they don't understand, that this is a symptom of people moving north. This is a symptom of years of neglect, and not only neglect, but Uncle Sam's managers for years have abused, destabilized those countries that try to show some nationalism and, keep some of the profits for the people living over there, build something that, undermine their profits. So they actually, Uncle Sam's manager sent people over there to destabilize them, in the hopes that, those countries, the profit margins remain thick and fat. Read about United Fruit Company, and their role in keep on overthrowing governments in Central America. The same governments that now their governments have never been stable. You got rid of all their educated people. You brought their educated people over. You incentivized them to come over, and you robbed them of their wealth, and you destabilized their country in order to rob them of the wealth. And now their poor are moving up north into your land, where you brought the wealth, where United Fruit Company brought the wealth. You didn't allow the wealth to stay over there and their educated people to stay over there. You didn't allow that. You pulled the money and you pulled the brains, and now they're living in shit, so they're coming to your home. What's the problem? This is the result of capitalism. Capitalism says profit is the most important thing. There is profit in exploiting other people and other lands. There is profit in exploiting other nations. There is very little profit in education. It's a very long-term thing, and it's not tangible profit. You can't show it in the next quarter. You don't educate your citizens, and you are stuck with the chaos in the cities because it's unprofitable, and under capitalism that's unacceptable. You invade other countries in order to exploit their resources because that is profitable and that is acceptable under capitalism. You do all of this under capitalism. Now that the shit has hit the fan, and it's the result of raising ignorant citizenry and invading other countries and robbing them and destabilizing. When the chickens from both have come home to roost, you're saying, this is the problem with socialism. You see? Okay, what is your solution, Mr. Capitalist? The solution, another capitalist solution to these problems that was created because of capitalism, the capitalist solution is open up more jails. We have to stuff these motherfuckers, all of them, into jails. Whether it's immigration jails or whether it's criminal jails, we have to open jail cities. We have to open, concentration camps to stuff all these motherfuckers in these camps, treat them like dogs. What is going on? This is chaos. This is unacceptable. Mr. Elon Musk this is unacceptable. This is chaos. This is the result of socialism. This is the result of woke mob. This is the result of Antifa. This is the result of none of this. This is the result of capitalism. Both the shit is that happening in your cities and the shit that is happening on your borders is a result of capitalism. Profit justifying all kinds of actions against others, towards others. Not educating your public so they wouldn't interfere, object to the expansion of the empire. And not educating your public because, and other uneducated people are fearful people. You can put the fear of God in them quite easily. You put the fear in them and then they give you the A-OK to go invade whoever the fuck you want because they're fearful. Why? Because they don't know shit. They can't find Iraq on the map. They don't care to find Iraq on the map. But they do care how big Kim Kardashian's ass is. That's important. On the red carpets, I just saw on the red carpet in some music award, the girl actually put her head down and put her ass up. Because apparently the ass of a woman has become more important than the head of the woman. So she puts her head down and puts her ass up, starts shaking it. This was educated, is being educated under your capitalist system. There's no fifth grade teacher who's teaching socialism. In socialism, you value human beings. In capitalism, you don't. You send them off to war. Because human beings don't have value. Money has value. She, on the red carpet, is putting her ass up and her head down because that's what she was taught. Her ass is making the money, not her head. So she's paying tribute to her ass. She puts her ass in the air and puts her head down and starts shaking it because her ass is making the money. Because your capitalist system has said, yeah, why not? Try to satisfy your primitive urges as much as you can and try not to have any other higher urges. Trying to not to think too much. You don't need to know where Vietnam is on the map. And let's get rid of, the draft so, we don't get smart motherfuckers coming in and running their mouth and trying to ask questions and be nosy. Let's get rid of the draft. We don't need smart mouths in the army. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Elon Musk. I'm sorry, you're wrong. These are all the results of capitalism. This is the fruits of capitalism. Your capitalist system, this is their fruit. Because profits are the most important thing, therefore things that are not profitable like education at home and things that are more profitable like expanding the periphery of the empire based on their profits being not profitable and more profitable. Capitalism takes its route. End of story. But now that shit has hit the fan, you're trying to stitch it to socialism and come up with your own brand of, you know, solution to this capitalist problem. This capitalist solution to a capitalist problem is for-profit jails. Let's put these motherfuckers in jails and see how poorly they can be treated and how much extra the private corporation can charge us as comparing to how much they spend on the prisoners, and their profit is going to be that profit, the difference between how much more they can charge us and how little they can feed them, the inmates. So, and let's make it let's come up with a capitalist solution. I'm sorry, you're making even suffering even more. They have been doing with the black skin population in America for decades now. Taking instead of, you know, trying to make their population productive to the society, they can be productive. They just have different aptitudes. But everybody can be productive for their own society. It's just that you have to care enough to come up with the educational system and come up with the salary system and wage system that every member would be satisfied that he's getting enough according to their aptitude and the skills that they pick up because of their aptitude. If your capitalist system has not been able to materialize that system because it's not profitable, then that's not the problem with socialism. That's not the problem with this one race or the other. That's the problem with your system. Capitalist system doesn't care about making members of society productive, because capitalist system sees there's more profit or less cost if you can import the scientists and the doctors and the engineers that you need. If you can import them, it's more profitable, because, you know, you didn't have any expenditure with regards to raising them. So you import them. It's cheaper. It's much cheaper to import a mathematician from some Middle Eastern shithole than to, you know, create a mathematician. That costs a lot more money. And the funny thing is, the rich folks also go along with this bullshit because it's a capitalist way. The rich folks look at it as to say, okay, I love it this way because at least I get to teach my children get the best education possible. When I hear that, I always, you know, have to remind these people who say, well, my kids are fine. They're getting a good education because I paid for it. I'm paying for it. Yeah, but folks, you do understand that I have to remind these rich folks who think like this. I have to remind them that you do understand that your kid, once they graduate from whatever expensive school they went to and they understood civil behavior and social conscience and history and geography, all of that they understood. Once they come out, are you planning on sending them to live on an island by themselves, or with other rich people who know as much as them, or children of other rich people who know as much as them, or are they planning on living in the same country as these other folks, these other 90% who don't have enough money to send their children to get a good education? If they're going to live in the same country as these other 90%, then your children are going to suffer, because your children are going to feel like humans in a monkey house. And it's a bad feeling being a human in a monkey house, because the monkeys are going to drive you mad. You know more than them, you're educated better than them, but what's the use? You have to, drive in the same street with them. You have to shop from the same shops with them. You have to meet them. You have to have contact with them. So if 90% of the members of society are not well educated, I'm sorry, you're gonna have a shitty society. That 10% are going to have a shitty time, more shittier than the monkey. The monkeys enjoy themselves in the monkey house. The monkeys enjoy themselves. The professor doesn't enjoy himself in the monkey house. The monkeys are enjoying themselves. Your private educational system, which is a product of capitalism, is bullshit. Is absolute nonsense. Look at Britain. These motherfuckers, the fucking British, they educated their people, the ones that had the money, they educated them in great institution, and they kept them on that shitty little island. And then, but they have this 90% of the population, which were poor and criminal and peasant shit. So they exported them. Those peasants who are not, doing exactly as they were told, because they were peasant shit. If they weren't doing exactly as they were told, they were considered criminals, put on a boat and sent to somebody else's land. Now it's their problem. That's how Australia and New Zealand were created. North America, South America was invaded by the shit the British didn't want. Not that their population right now are that. No, those people, poor bastards, had to go over other people's land and clear the land, and then the British sent their professors too, after the land was cleared by the peasant colonialists. Folks, Mr. Elon Musk, Mr. Tucker Carlson, all these problems are problems of capitalism. All these problems that I mentioned, from colonialism, old world colonialism, new world colonialism, neo-colonialism, these expansionist and expeditionary wars that the colonial power, ex-colonial power, or current colonial powers, or NATO have taken part in, to the skirmishes in Ukraine, to uneducated population, to uninformed population, to all these people coming from the southern hemisphere to northern hemisphere, because they were exploited by capitalism. The whole thing, the whole mess in the world, planet Earth right now, the whole mess is the mess of capitalism. Walmart is a fruit of capitalism. There are no small vendors anymore, because it's more efficient in capitalist system. It's more efficient to have one large vendor. With regards to Argentina, Mr. Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, their problem is not socialism. The problem, just like Zimbabwe, their problem is not their dictatorship. Just like Iran, their problem is not their religion, whatever shit that is. Or, no, none of these. Just like Palestine, their problem is not that they're terrorists. None of this is the problem. None of these are the problem. The problem of Venezuela is not that they got, a military leader. No, there are a lot of successful military leaders, and the definition of success is if you can make a cheap, stable country going. That's the definition of success. The problem with inflation in all these countries, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina, Iran, North Korea, the problem with all these countries' inflation and bad economy is because of British American consortium in which these folks control the value of other people's countries, period. Those countries think they control their own values. Their population specifically, their ignorant population specifically, think that the people who run the government have the power to control their own inflation. They don't. The reason all these countries, although their own system inside those countries are very different. Venezuela, Iran, Argentina, and Zimbabwe, and North Korea, they're all different. One is religious, one is economically this way, one is military that way, one is democracy, but I guess it's not democracy or not working. None of these democratic leaders in Argentina were able to fix the problem. Or Zimbabwe, they have democracy, but they just ask the white people to leave. And this is not their problem. They all have different systems. You can't say they're all wrong, but they have one thing in common. The British American consortium doesn't like them. They don't like the Argentinians because the Argentinians are, a large portion of Argentina are Germans, ex-Germans, ex-Nazi Germany soldiers and officers who went by the ship to Argentina and settled down during and after World War II. That is their sin, and that's why the American-British consortium that up to this point has been controlling the world supply of money and credit has been able to implement their ideal situation for Argentina, and that is to do not let Argentina get off its knees. That's the whole point. Because and the Falkland War, the war between the British and the fucking British and the Argentinians, were a strong reminder to the fucking British that if they let Argentina, because there's so many Germans in Argentina, if they let Argentina to get up from their knees, Argentinians are friends of the Germans, they will partner with Germany, and the Germans will have another partner in the southern hemisphere, which is not to the liking of the British American consortium. So they were condemned from the beginning, and their inflation only increased dramatically after the Falkland War. Look at the numbers. Inflation of Argentina increased dramatically after the Falkland War, and it has been going up more and more and more and more. This is the work done by the British American consortium. One. Venezuela, same thing. They nationalized their oil company because so much of the profits were being taken by the American corporations, and they didn't like it. The top-ranking officers of the army got together and said, "Oh, this is a Bolivarian republic," and blah 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 blah. We got our own penis. We got a big penis too. So they declared, they took power and declared the Americans unwelcome. And ever since then, they've had inflation. And their system is not working because they're socialists. No, their system is not working because they're under blockade and sanctions and embargoes. Why? By whom? By the same CIA, the same system, the same political system, who rather takes the side of Chevron than the side of the fucking brown Venezuelans. So the result is all these illegal immigrants from Venezuela, they're coming north not because of socialism, not because who's in power in Venezuela, but because their country is under sanctions. If you deal with Venezuela like normal, like Colombia, they wouldn't be so many Venezuelans leaving Venezuela. It's not that they're leaving because of socialism. They're leaving because they're leaving because they're under sanctions. Zimbabwe, they just said, hey, we want, we only want black people here. This is Africa. The continent belongs to black people. And yes, we know we might not be as smart as white people, but we like to keep it that way. We would like to keep it black. So get the fuck out. As soon as they kick the white farmers out, which is how Europeans still have influence in Africa through these white settlers who still remain there. And they have the big farms and big corporations, they're organizing it and they're running it. So if Europeans still keep some kind of influence in Africa through these big money, big farmers, white farmers, and white industrialists in Africa. They keep some influence. So they kicked them out, Zimbabwe kicked them out, and ever since they've had double-digit inflation. Not because they've changed anything, it's because London and New York have decided they should have high inflation, period. Embargo, sanction, and force inflation down their throat until they understand who's the boss. Oh, Iranians, the biggest sin of all. Not only they kicked Uncle Sam's managers out, but they held hostages. They tried to assert their will. Fuck them. Sanction. 50 years. Tell our boy over there, Saddam, to attack. Folks, these are all sins of capitalism. You cannot tell me that capitalism has committed the sin, but now the bastard, you're trying to, tell me the bastard is the bastard of socialism. No, if you do genetic testing of the bastard, the result, you will notice that it has all the markings of profit-driven capitalist system. Invading other countries, not educating your public, being suspicious of informed public, absorbing the educated people of other lands instead of raising your own educated people. These are all have one thing in common. Every time you go where there is more profits, and if there are no profits, like in education, if they can't pay for it, it's not profitable. And if it's not profitable, we don't do it in our capitalist system. So 90% of people don't have a good education. They're not informed enough. You can't. The bastards that has come out, that was created, is the bastard of capitalism. It's not the son of socialism. Why you're trying to go deep into it, see it for yourself. You decided, capitalist system decided not to inform their public. And calling the informed people as nerds, putting them down because they're informed. Really? There was this incident in which, this is a prime example of what the fuck is wrong. It was a story in the news about, I think 4 or 5 years ago. It just explains, it is an example of exactly what shitty situation capitalism has created. In, I don't know, Kansas or Oklahoma, one of these central states, very low population density and bad educational system because most people are not rich over there. So it's not a coastal city, so relatively people are not very rich in Oklahoma, or majority of people. So not a good educational system, because in capitalism, if you can't pay for it, you can't have it. Okay, there was an incident in which a Indian rocket scientist was sitting in a bar having a beer with his Indian buddy, both of whom were physicists and rocket scientists, and they were in this central state, Kansas or Oklahoma or somewhere like that. They were both there and having a beer, and a white guy, one of the locals, uninformed, uneducated, because he wasn't born in a rich family. So he comes up to him and he says something, and the Indian says something back, and a little, apparently after a couple of back and forths, just right there and there, the white guy, white native, a European native of America, pulls his gun out and puts a bullet between the Indian's eyes. And rocket scientist. And that just shows you exactly what I mean. Don't educate the natives of your own land, because the people of your own land, the citizenry of your own land, because if you educate them, then they will not, they will not agree with everything you want to do, like invade every shithole in this planet. So if they're informed, they might have their own ideas of what is fair and what is unfair, and what is right and what is not right, and what is human and what is inhuman. And and they might be able to do some math and understand that it's all about money and numbers, all these invasions, and none of it is about freedom and democracy. But anyway, they don't educate the native, the native citizen, and then they import the rocket scientists from India to build a rocket, so then they can use this rocket and go bomb some other land, and to expand their own empire, and then through that action push the refugees, make refugees out of the natives of that land, and push more of those natives of those land, pull them more towards their own land. So you literally are looking at this and saying, do you see the problem? That Indian scientist didn't have to be there. He should have been in India trying to fix that shithole. That native European in America, native European American, like they say African American, native European American, if he was any more educated than he was, a little more educated than he was, he would have noticed that this is not the brown guy's problem is not there because he likes to be away from his land and likes to be, in northern hemisphere. He prefers to be in his own country, in his own southern hemisphere. It's just that the pay is not as good, and the incentives are not as good. So he leaves his native land and he goes to Kansas. Why the incentives are higher in Kansas? Because Lockheed Martin doesn't have enough scientists, native scientists. Why? Because capitalism, says if you don't have the money, we're not going to educate you. These are all sins of capitalism. And you're trying to blame socialism for it. No, I'm sorry. That shit don't fly here. Sorry. You think about it a little more, Mr. Tucker Carlson, Mr. Elon Musk, you will come to the same conclusion.